Welcome to the ordinary meeting of the Wellington Shire for the 6th of March. Members of the public gallery should note that Council records and publishes Council meetings via the webcast to enhance the accessibility of Council meetings to the broader Wellington community. These recordings are also archived and may be published on Council's website for viewing by the public or used for publicity or information purposes. At the appropriate times during the meeting, members of the gallery may address the Council, at which time their image, comments or submissions will be recorded. Members of the public who are not in attendance at the Council meeting but who wish to communicate with Council via the webcasting chat room should lodge their questions or comments early in the meeting to ensure that their submissions can be dealt with at the end of the meeting. Please could gallery visitors and councillors ensure that mobile phones and other electronic devices are turned off or in silent mode for the duration of the meeting. Please stand for the acknowledgement and prayer. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land, the Gunai-Kurnai people, and pay respects to their elders past and present. Almighty God, we ask your blessing upon the Wellington Shire Council, its councillors, officers, staff and their families. We pray for your guidance in our decisions so that the true good of the Wellington Shire Council may result to the benefit of all residents and community groups. Amen. Item A2, I don't believe we have any apologies. Item A3, declaration of conflicts of interest, likewise, no conflicts. Item A4, confirmation of minutes of previous council meeting. Councillor Bai.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move that Council adopt the minutes and resolutions of the ordinary council meeting of the 20th of February 2018.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Hall, is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. You found Councillor Hall? Councillor Bai. Item A5, no business arising from previous. Item A6, no acceptance of late items. Item A7, we have notice of motion. We have 3 of those. Item A7.1, construction of TAFE campus. Councillor McCubbin.
Yeah, no one was suspected, did they?
Nobody wish to speak to that one? No?
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the following: that the Mayor write to the Minister for Training and Skills, the Honourable Gail Turney, MP, and Minister for Eastern Victoria, Ms Harriet Shing, seeking a funding allocation in the 2018-19 Victorian Government budget to construct a new purpose-built TAFE campus at the proposed Port of Sale site in Sale. The new campus will address the inadequate provision of vocational training and education in the Sale community and to the broader Wellington Shire.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Stevens. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor McCubbin.
Thank you. The building of capacity, particularly the building of education capacity, is a fundamental for this council. We've recently invested in this magnificent building that we currently stand in, which is an opportunity for the community to learn, to develop, to grow together socially and intellectually. It's a cultural hub, it's a library, and as well as being an intellectual hub. The missing piece of the jigsaw has always been the provision of TAFE services within this area. And the synergies with this particular building and TAFE are obvious. We have been continuously pressing the government to make a decision in regard to the TAFE. And this is of both streams of government. Unfortunately, this long-running issue has been going on too long. We've had meetings with the Minister before and have certainly engaged in the process as required. And I think everybody was excited by the number of people that sat around the table. I think it was 6 months ago when we were at the Criterion, when the TAFE ran a session on, what was going on, what was the interest, what are the possibilities. And we all saw, sitting around those tables, the members of the community getting engaged with TAFE, saying the same thing that we're saying. That TAFE is fundamental to the building of our capacity in our community, of building the opportunities for our young people, of creating skills within our community and an educated workforce for this year and for future years. The TAFE is fundamental for all that. And we simply want from the government to give an assurance that they've not forgotten us and that they can move the inadequate TAFE from outside this town into the centre of town. Moving to the centre of town makes it, of course, accessible by all young people. It is extraordinarily difficult to go 15 minutes down the road. It also creates synergies with this building, as I mentioned before. It creates synergies with the other schools within the region. It is obvious. Council just continues to push. Our philosophy is obvious. We think the TAFE is necessary. We also echo the results of our community, which is that they believe that the TAFE is necessary and essential, and we continue to press the government to make a decision in regard to it. I thank the members sitting around the table for unanimously declaring that we want to get something from the government, and I think now is the time to do that. Thank you, Mayor, for allowing me to speak.
And I'll enjoy writing the letter. Item A7, 2, current recycling crisis. Councillor Marr.
I move that the Mayor write a letter to the Minister of Energy, Environment and Climate Change, the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio, seeking a response to those matters raised within the background section of this paper, and that the letter be copied to all relevant state members of Parliament who cover the Wellington Shire Council.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Councillor Hall. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Marr.
I'll take the liberty of reading the background that is written here, because I think it really sums everything up quite well. The Wellington Shire Council, amongst many Victorian councils, is significantly impacted by the recycling crisis now facing Victoria. While the state's last-minute intervention in this matter, and particularly the financial assistance provided, is appreciated, up until this point, there was the possibility of local curbside recycling services ceasing. It's worth noting, though, that at this point in time, we have not received any formal detail regarding the state's intervention offer. Given this, the problem has not yet been fully resolved, merely delayed until the 1st of July of this year, at which point it would appear local councils will be forced to pass on the increased cost to their communities. The time is now right for the state to play a much stronger lead role in developing a local recycling industry. The funds collected through the EPA levy, valued at more than $500 million, should be allocated as a priority to driving local investment in the industry and building infrastructure, developing markets through increased competition, and undertaking research and development activities. The Gippsland region is desperate for economic development that drives job growth, and this is a perfectly ideal opportunity to do so. I also encourage the government to reconsider the timing of the introduction of the proposed landfill ban on e-waste, scheduled for July 1 also of this year. It's my understanding that the structure of this ban is similar to the recycling model that has just essentially failed, relying on immature and volatile markets where actual commodity values are unknown, leading to price fluctuations and potential additional costs to our communities. Coupled with inadequate infrastructure provision and to date very little public education regarding the planned ban, the introduction of this at the time would seem at the very least ambitious, if not reckless. In addition, it appears that the entire recycling approach is flawed in that to date all efforts have targeted the end of the process rather than the start. I suggest that greater emphasis be placed on product stewardship and tighter packaging regulations, thus avoiding the end-of-pipe approach that has failed, bringing with it direct additional costs to local communities. To achieve the state's stated aim of zero waste above all things, it must be urgently attended to. However, without significant additional effort in community education through targeted and consistent programs and to drive the sustainable procurement model, there is a real danger that zero waste will be unachievable. We all know that landfill is becoming less available and socially acceptable. We have a changing climate where our waste will be viewed as a resource in the future. This is already occurring in Europe. However, as consumers, we also need to be more aware about the packaging our purchases generate and where that packaging eventually ends up. Thank you.
Thank you for raising that important issue. Item A73, South Gippsland Water by Agreement Customers. Councillor Stevens. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I'm happy to move that the Mayor write to the Minister for Water, the Honourable Lisa Neville, seeking a review of the total water provision available and an assurance that South Gippsland Water customers who receive water by agreement from South Gippsland Water's Tarra River supply pipe will not have their water supply cut off as highlighted in the background section of this paper. Thank you.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Marr. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Stevens.
Yes, thank you very much, Mayor. Just to give you a quick bit of information on what actually transpired here, I was asked to go out to a public meeting Friday week ago by Mr Brooks, one of the affected landowners, and there was a meeting at Devon North with representatives of South Gippsland Water and Southern Rural Water. And what transpired was that the Water Board had in fact issued a notice to the 28 landowners who receive water by agreement that because of the low water flows in the Tarra River, there was a potential for their water to be cut off, because the last time there was low water flows in the Tarra River, the Minister gave permission for a low, the environmental flow to be cut below 3 megalitres at the Tarra River takeoff point. But of course, since then, the Water Board has put in alternative measures. They've got a drought-proofing system to service the town of Yarram and Port Albert, and they did start that pump up apparently about 2 weeks ago. But of course, it wasn't going to benefit the people who get their water from this pipe that runs between the takeoff point and the holding basin at Devon North, some 8 kilometres of pipe. And unfortunately, there's never been a time in living memory, according to the landowners, when they've actually had their water cut off. But the meeting was held, as I said, with representatives of the Water Board and Southern Rural Water. I went out there to sit unobtrusively at the back, Mayor, but unfortunately, due to some, I'm not too sure how it happened, I ended up chairing the meeting. And at the end of the meeting, the Managing Director of South Gippsland Water was asked what action could be taken, and he said, "Oh, the council could advocate on behalf of us to see if we could get a lower environmental flow." So here we are. So of course, unfortunately, in our council plan, it does say in item 6.42 that one of our strong things is to advocate on behalf of our community. So that's what we're doing here this afternoon. I thank council for the support, and I'm sure that the 28 landowners and the South Gippsland Water Board will be happy for us to advocate on behalf of this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Stevens. And beware of attending meetings, obviously.
Indeed, I'm not any more publicly.
No, an important issue for those community members, indeed. Certainly. So thank you for bringing it to our attention. Item A8, receiving petitions or joint letters. Item A8.2, receipt of a petition, a relocation of Rosedale Cenotaph, honour wall and flagpole. Now, I believe we have Irene Roberts wish to speak to us on this item. So if you please just state your name and where you're from, and you have your 3 minutes. Thank you very much.
My name is Irene Robertson. I'm a ratepayer of the Shire, and I'm also a wife of a Vietnam veteran, and today I'm representing the RSL in Rosedale. Mayor Crosley, councillors, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for letting me address the meeting this afternoon. I would like to discuss the relocation of the Cenotaph and honour wall in Rosedale to the Prince Street Reserve. My husband Les is an apology this afternoon, as is Ken Curtis. Les is a returned serviceman, as was my father. Les and I both hold positions in the Rosedale RSL. I would like to briefly mention that thanks to the RSL and APT, last year I had the good fortune to win an 8-day cruise up the Mekong River. As part of the tour, we visited the Long Tan Cross that was erected as a memorial to all who had died in the Battle of Long Tan in 1966. Les was a tunnel rat and was there for the battle. So you could imagine it was a very moving time for us. Leaving Vietnam, a communist country, we went to Cambodia. In Cambodia, we met many of the locals, and while very poor, they appeared to be very happy people and wanted to talk to us Aussies. One young man, a tuk-tuk driver, asked where we had been and had we been to the killing fields. And I said, no, I'd be too distressed to go. And then he said to me, you know, we are free. And I just looked at him a bit dumbstruck and quite blank and said, well, and he could see my confusion because then he said very proudly, you know, we are a free country now. We are free. The words, we are a free country, came up several times through our tour of Cambodia. The reason I mention this is because when Les and I came home, the relocation of the Cenotaph was a hot topic and very important issue. I have to say we are both very proud Australians. When we think of the Cenotaph, we think of the fact that we are free. We do live in a free country. And that freedom was fought by many proud Australians whose names are on the Cenotaph throughout Australia. The names of the many men and women are a reminder to us that there have been many people who have died and fought to keep this country free, to give us the opportunities we have today in Australia. There are still today some of our armed services fighting overseas, and there is, of course, many more men and women who have died due to their war trauma, whose names are not on the Cenotaph, but many people like to remember them, and what better place than at the Cenotaph. People who are passing by when Anzac and Remembrance Day services are being held have often stopped and joined in with the service. If the Cenotaph was at Edward Crook Reserve, it would not be visible to the passing public, and this would probably not happen. Les and I took a day out and visited as many of the towns in the Shire that we could and took photos of the Cenotaph in each town. Most towns in our Shire, the Cenotaph is in a very prominent position, easy to find and easily seen. A reminder to us of those who have served and are continuing to serve to keep our country free. So why shouldn't the Cenotaph and Honour Wall have pride of place in Rosedale, in the hub of our town at Prince Street Reserve, rather than the back street, which many will never see? The reserve is a more prominent position. Public accessibility and prominent visibility is important, not just for our locals and those whose names are on the Cenotaph, but for all Australians. Prince Street Reserve is shared by many passers-by who stop for a break to use the amenities or to rest, let the kids have some fun and play in the area, and to just look around. The residents of Rosedale use the Prince Street Reserve for many different activities throughout the year, including Australia Day, markets, birthdays, and many other activities. The RSL, Les and I, believe that the preference for the Prince Street Reserve locality has been proven with a petition of signatures that the letters sent in by individuals and the many clubs that are now part of the town that have been forwarded to the Wellington Shire, showing great support for the Cenotaph and Honour Wall to be relocated at Prince Street Reserve. On behalf of the RSL, Rosedale, I would like to sincerely thank and acknowledge the many people who have supported the Rosedale RSL with letters, with signing petitions, as well as the Prince Street Reserve Committee, Rosedale Chamber of Commerce, Rosedale Football and Netball Club, Rosedale Cricket Club, Bowling Club, and many other groups in the town that have supported the relocation of the Cenotaph and honour wall at Prince Street Reserve. I also have to say a grateful thanks to my tuk-tuk driver who gave me the right reminder what a great free country I live in, and those who have fought to keep Australia free and the wonderful country it is. We will remember them, lest we forget. In concluding, I would like to thank Mick Crossley and the Wellington Shire and the councillors who were prepared and have supported us, for giving me the opportunity to speak this afternoon and to publicly thank all those who have supported the relocation of the Cenotaph to the Prince Street Reserve, where it can be easily seen and observed by our local community and all who pass through our beautiful town. We're so proud of. A reminder to all, we are a free country.
Thank you, Irene. I know you're not accustomed to speaking, and you did very well. And Wellington is a defence force community, and we really thank both that are serving now and those that have served in the past, and pay respect to all the RSL. So thank you on their behalf for coming and representing them so well. So I'll call upon Carmel. Councillor Ripper, thank you.
Well, I'd like to thank Irene. I don't think I can say anything more, but I will do the recommendation that Council receive the attached petition in relation to the relocation of Rosedale Cenotaph on a wall and flagpole.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor McCubbin. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Carmel? Carmel. Ripper.
Thank you, Irene. They were very touching. That was a touching story. And as an ex-service person and a member of RSL, I think Prince Street is definitely the best place, and for all the reasons that you mentioned in your letter, that I'm pleased to be able to recommend that it be in Prince Street, and I'll look forward to the opening. And I can't add anything more other than what you've said. So thank you. That was very touching. Thank you very much.
I could probably just add that the Vic Roads will be resubmitting a permit for the moving, so it was one of two options. So I think, as I say, they'll be resubmitting to take that further. So thank you very much. So if you wish to, you may now exit the meeting. Thank you. Moving on to item A8, 3, response to petition, objection renaming Park Street. Councillor McCubbin. Is there anybody speaking to this one? I don't believe so. No.
No, thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move the Council receive and note the attached petition objecting to the proposed renaming of the Park of Park Street to Grand Canal Drive. 2, Council note that the petition has been referred to the Place Names Committee and that the Place Names Committee report will be presented to Council for consideration on the 20th of March 2018. And 3, the Chief Executive Officer writes to the head petitioner advising there is no proposal to alter the intersection of Park Street and Canal Road.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Rossetti. Is that motion opposed? The motion is not opposed. The motion is carried.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you very much to the petitioners who have put this forward to Council, and indeed the Place Names Committee, of which I am Chair, will be reporting formally to the Council on the 20th of March. And I don't wish to say too much about that. Perhaps just to explain to the Council the history behind this. At the last meeting, it was referred to a letter which had been sent. It was sent to the Place Names Committee in response to an ad that was placed in the Gippsland Times on the 20th of December asking in regard to the new name of the road being Grand Canal Drive. 5. Responses to that were to be in by the 30th of January. Quite clearly on that letter to the Place Names Committee, the petitioner wished that to be accepted as 106 different objections, which we have taken that to be, and we've certainly discussed it at our meeting. We also, after the meeting last week, chased it up, was aware that the petitioner wished it to be included as a formal petition, and therefore we're bringing it to Council today. So it was submitted initially as a response to the ad. We've included it as well as a petition just to cover both bases. And probably that explains why it wasn't a petition last week, because it was sent to the Place Names Committee because of the ad we put in the paper. So I think that needs to be made clear. I will mention the third point of which the Chief Executive Officer is writing to them in regard to the road. There are essentially two decisions here. One is in regard to the naming of the road, and as I said, we'll deal with that when the petition comes up. But the other is in terms of the orientation of the road and whether it goes from a T intersection at the break of what was Canal Road and Park Street, or whether it is, as it is now, one continuous road that goes all the way to the end. In this, Council has a clear obligation to safety. We recognise that there has been some changes take place on that intersection. Council has spent somewhat north of $1.5 million in creating a new concrete bridge across the canal there on Flooding Creek. And this has created enhanced safety aspects for the people along the Park Street estate. It's made an all-purpose bridge. It's essentially a much better bridge than what we used to have, the rickety old thing that we all knew and maybe loved. It's now a much safer and better bridge. And as I said, it cost somewhat more than $1.5 million to do so. It did cause us to rethink that intersection and what indeed was the most important road. Now, when two roads intersect, it is clear, both legislatively and, if you like, morally, that the most important road, the road that has the most traffic, is the most significant road, and the road that has the least traffic is the one that contains the give way sign or the stop sign or whatever. So Council looked at that, and clearly the changes to the Port Precinct, and absolutely acknowledge that this means a change in the orientation of that road, has meant that the Canal Road is now one long extended road which extends to Foster Street. I absolutely acknowledge that for the people that lived along Park Street, that is a change. They are now confronted by a give way sign that they never had, and I am sympathetic to that. I live on a road which has a give way sign at the end of its street, and it's really annoying. But you know, we live with the fact that the street that is the most significant must take the most road and must take the appropriate priority. So it's really nothing that Council needs to address. We don't do it because we like people more, or we don't do it because of the colour of the road or any of those. And I don't mean to be silly about it. I just simply say it's based on traffic numbers. And the traffic numbers are clearly saying to us that the Canal Road is the highest priority. In the 2 months that this place has been open, there's been over 40,000 people that have attended this centre. I'm not suggesting for a moment that all of those 40 people have made the turn off the highway round to the back here, but it is the clear intent of the architect and indeed the council that the front of the building has now been shifted to the port side. This is the working front of the building. And quite clearly, there is a large number of people who are driving along that road and use that road now, more than they've ever done. And therefore, you look at the 11 people that are based around Park Street, you look at the thousands of people who are using the port, and clearly this road has the higher priority. I must admit it myself. We've taken traffic counts to look at that, and myself, I've sat out there and had a look. I went out there this morning again, and there are school buses that go along there. The town bus goes along that Canal Road and turns around that corner. It is a road which is well used, and unfortunately Park Road, despite the fact that it has a very expensive bridge on it, has now become a secondary priority to that main Canal Road. So explaining to the petitioner that, yes, we'll have the debate in regard to what the name should be called. We'll absolutely have that debate and welcome to do that. But in terms of the priorities, it is obvious that the priority road is the Canal Road, and that is not changing. Thank you.
Thank you for that explanation, Councillor McCubbin. Brings us to item A9, invited address, presentation, acknowledgement. I would like to actually just to acknowledge that it's International Women's Day on Thursday and to acknowledge the achievement of women in the past and hopefully in the future, and that we've still got a way to go to have equality in a whole range of areas, and particularly of in the areas of domestic violence and family violence, and just like to acknowledge that in that spot. Item A10, question on notice, which we don't have. B, report of delegates. No reports. Item C, no officers' report. Chief Executive not in this officers' report, not in this round. Item C2, General Manager report, corporate services. Item C2.1, Assembly of Councillors. Councillor Bai.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. I move the Council note to receive the attached Assembly of Council records for the period 13th of February 2018 to the 27th of February 2018.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Ripper. Is that motion opposed? The motion's unopposed. The motion is carried. You're fine with that? Thank you. Item C3. We don't have any items in there. Item C4, likewise. General Built and Natural Environment, nothing there. Item C5, General Manager Community and Culture. Item C5.1, Briagolong Rec Reserve, Committee of Management, Minutes and Membership. Nobody's speaking on that. Councillor Ripper.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to move that the Council receive the minutes from the Briagolong Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's general meeting held on the 8th of January 2018, including financial statement, as read para 2, para 3.
Thank you. Do I have a second for that? Councillor Hull. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. We're fine with that. And just to say, the person will be notified in due course. Item C5.2, Gordon Street Rec Reserve. Councillor Hull.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm going to move the Council receive the minutes from the Gordon Street Recreation Reserve Committee of Management's ordinary meeting held on the 23rd of October 2017, including the financial statement.
Thank you. Is that seconded? It's seconded by Councillor Hall. Is that motion opposed? The motion's not opposed. The motion is carried. Councillor Hall.
Well outvoted.
We have to separate you two.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, look, it's great to get these minutes, and not only from this Gordon Street Reserve, but the Briagolong Rec Reserve and any other of our reserve committees around the Shire, to see the work that our wonderful volunteers do, and the local tradespeople who donate their time and a lot of their equipment to make sure that the community has great facilities. A couple of things that come out of the Gordon Street Reserve this time needs to, I think, brought to attention is the enthusiasm of the committee. Everybody was there except for one committee person who had an illness to deal with. And the second thing that came out is the concern about the ageing state of the tortoise at the RV park. The tortoise there are in excess of 60 years old, and the RV park is now getting a good name for somewhere to stay, somewhere safe, and they've had in excess of 20 vans a night on some occasions. There is a dump pit there, right down the course. The Gordon Street Reserve will put on their master plan for the replacement of those very antiquated toilets.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Item D, we have no urgent business. Item E, we have any chat rooms?
None.
None, thank you. This is also where we have any further gallery comments. I'll just bring the gallery aware and just outline that there's been some confusion about what this section in the meeting an agenda means. So I'll just read it out, as this is just for the sake of the gallery, that the gallery comments an opportunity for members of the community to raise any particular matter they wish. This allows those in the gallery to speak directly to councillors, but it is not a forum designed for open discussion or debate. We will listen respectfully to what you have to say and make the comment that the Mayor will respond to you in writing within 1 week if required, and a copy of the response will be circulated to all councillors. This is not a forum for members of the public to lodge complaints against individuals, including councillors and staff, particularly as that individual gets no public right of reply to any matter raised. We take complaints seriously, and in line with the guidance from the Victorian Ombudsman and the Local Government Inspectorate, we request that any specific complaint against an individual be put in writing. This way, the concerns can be properly dealt with while ensuring fairness to all parties concerned. If you wish to speak, we remind you that this part of the meeting is being recorded and broadcast on our website. Councillors' official minutes will record that you have spoken to council and the subject you spoke to council about, but we will not record specific comments. We ask you to state your name in full, where you are from, and you have 3 minutes to state your case. So just clarification on that. I don't know, we have a couple of people certainly who are wishing to address us, and so now's the time, and I will seek those, and I think the gentleman from Santos wishes to speak with us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Johan Jensen, and I'm from Sentosa Safaris. And we live on Cass Creek Road in Dudson or Longford. The complaints are a few, but I like to start with the most recent one, where I noticed a tree broken in half, and the other half was cracked, and I reported to the council. It was on the unmade part of Cass Creek Road. Photos were taken, and we got a reply back. Sir, we don't maintain this part of Cass Creek Road. We only serve people that have broken trees or fallen trees on the ones we maintain. You can get a permit to remove it yourself. Well, it's not on my land, and although you do not maintain that part of Cass Creek Road, it's still the council's road. So, where do we go from here? I'm not in the position to take it down. The people that attended to my complaint, they just followed the book. But common sense says that if you are warned that something is to be bound to happening, right, an accident or somebody get hurt, you look at that out of a true perspective. So it is not my road, it is the council's road. If you maintain it or not maintain it, it's irrelevant. It is not my road. So I did get a response back. Sorry, it may take a couple of more minutes than 3. Tom Wetherill, which was the building environmental planning, I referred to your telephone conversation. Oh no, that is the second one. Request for tree removal, 1384 Cass Creek Road, Dudson. Thank you for your customer requiring dated the 24th of January 2018, requesting removal of a tree within the Cass Creek Road Reserve. Please note that the Wellington Shire Council maintain native vegetation adjacent to maintaining roads to ensure the safety passage of traffic. In instances where roads are not maintained by council, as it is in this case, roadside vegetation is not maintained. Okay, that is straight out of a book. There are also controls in Victoria regarding the removal of native vegetation. Generally, native vegetation cannot be removed without a planning permit, unless a relevant exemption applies. Is it my duty to go for a planning permit and save the public? I don't think so. So that was from Tom Wetherill. So fair enough, the man did his job. Then we came to the second problem. Let me just say that the problem we have with Cass Creek Road, the unmade part and road access to my place, has been going on for 10 years. We did get originally council approval to make a second road access to Cenotaph. Unfortunately, bigger people were at foot, namely Gippsland Water, and although I had a permit, they managed to overrule it on the pretense of a Holland mouse and on the pretense of some rare vegetation on the road reserve. Mind you, this is a road reserve. I'm not asking to go through virgin land. Okay. So we employed somebody at the tune of $10,000 to check out the trees. Got a report here. $10,000 worth? Yes, sir, you can. There are 4 trees that are of significance, but you can easily go around them. We're not looking for a sealed highway. We're looking for a secondary road, and we got knocked down. So we did have approval from the council, but unfortunately, the council did not further look into the matter. It was up to me to capitulate and say, well, so be it, because money doesn't grow on a tree for me either. So that is question 2. Question 3. With all this kerfuffle over 10 years, and years go on, time goes on, we now have Google Maps. And with Google Maps, everybody directs you to the nearest point of entry. So when my customers, we are a resort, want to know how to get there, they say, give me your address. So we say 138 Cass Creek Road, Longford. They bring you down to Jimmy's Creek Road. From anywhere you come from Longford, they say, well, straight go to Jimmy's Creek Road. And what do you get then? A big gate, locked. We can't get through. Sometimes late at night, they ring me and they say, we can't get to you. We are at the locked gate. Oh, sir, I'm terribly sorry. Please go back to Longford, come around and go down the Sea Spray Road and travel 15 kilometers on Cass Creek Road and you get to my place. These very many unhappy customers. So I pointed that out to this Tom Wetherell when we were talking of the tree.
Can I just interrupt? Are you at a point of conclusion?
Point of conclusion. Don't you want to hear the third point?
Well, this I was just wondering because you already have. I've gone over the 3 minutes. I'm just because we do know these have gone on for a very long time and understand the frustrations with the other authority, and certainly we have tried to have discussions. Well, have had discussions with Gippsland Waters on these matters, and I'm quite happy to take the other ones on notice. But I was just trying to. Is your third point is a point of conclusion?
Yeah, point of conclusion.
Thank you.
And I'll come back to this Tom Wetherell, who was kind enough to do what I asked him. And I said, just press 138 Cars Creek Road. And he said, yes, we'll finish up at Jimmy's Creek Road and at Lock Gate. He'd taken it up on his own behalf with Google on the 23rd of February. And he will notify me when he gets response. But this issue, in conclusion, this issue has been going on for 10 years. We have had no real input from the council regarding where we go from here, what to do, and the only thing, as far as we know, road needs to be closed. Otherwise, you will forever being directed that way. So we're asking the council to please look into the Google aspect of things, first of all. And then secondly, reconsidering the tree. And fourthly, please revisit paperwork. I've got it here, the $10,000 workout, how we can have a second access to Cars Creek and to Cenotaph. So I thank you very, very much. And if anyone would like to answer me in due course, I'll be very, very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you. You'll certainly be responded to. And as I say, it's been, as we know, an ongoing and frustrating issue with. I know Google is quite a problem in a few places. I went to a wedding in Otway, and in big writing they said, "Do not follow Google's instructions." So they're not always the saving grace for us. But
I understand that, but somebody higher up has to attend to it.
Yeah, and certainly we'll get back to you on that one. Thank you. Yes. Yes, certainly. If you can again state your name, please.
My name's Giuseppe Antonio Mayo. You can call me Tony. I'm a resident at Locksport. I'm also a member of the gun club at Santosa. And to add to the point of conclusion in relation to the roads being closed down at Cars Creek Road especially, just recently I was had the misfortune of having an accident on that road, and I overturned my vehicle. Police and ambulance and fire brigade were called to the scene. I was trapped in my car upside down with a seatbelt. Took me a while to get out, and in doing so, fire brigade, police and everyone went to this specific gate that John just mentioned. Now, fortunately enough, I was able to get out and I was taken to hospital eventually, where the police had to take me to Longford, where we met up with the ambulance due to the fact that the ambulance couldn't get through to get to me. So I'm objecting to the fact that all these roads are closed and they're not maintained. Someone's responsible for them, and I presume yourselves want to make a decision on how much life is really worth. that's the conclusion that I wanted to. Thank you.
Well, thank you, and I'm glad you had a good outcome. But as I say, some of these other agencies' issues and not our roads, but certainly we can have discussions. So thank you.
We'll send Tony a response, Mayor, if we can
Yep.
get his address.
So if you leave your address with Chris Hasty, we'll be able to send you a response back as well. Thank you. Thank you for, and I'm sure it was a very distressing event for you. Any other further commentaries from the gallery?
Good afternoon to the Mayor, CEO, councillors and public gallery. My name is Paul Ennis. I have spoken at the last couple of council meetings. I'd like to say as a result that we're finally getting into action, my issues with the neighbouring sporting club. They did have an event over this weekend. I have, for the benefit of information for whomever wishes to take a look, brought a small selection of rubbish that I have gathered off my property. I did not pick up anything that was of an environmentally hazardous nature, like the used toilet paper that is once again on my property from the fact that the hygiene facilities at the premises next to me are inadequate for the very large numbers of persons that attend these meetings. The club in question is having a meeting on the 15th of April this year. It is a round of the National Motocross Championships. It will be an extremely large meeting with many, many hundreds of people in attendance from across the countryside and possibly even internationally. I do hope that the meeting that the council is attending on Thursday with the EPA and the club will have the result of sorting out the rubbish and the other waste and hazard issues that are generated from that facility. As I said, you know, once again, there's used toilet paper over the district from their open air toilet facilities, which is wherever they wish to go. And the other big one that is an issue is their wash bays, which I believe are unpermitted. The water from those wash bays is contaminated with petrol and chemicals, oil, etc. It simply flows down the hill into Kentucky Creek. Kentucky Creek then flows on to join the McAllister River above where Maffra draws its water supply, and I have had a concern for many years about that contaminated water entering into the river system. That concludes my presentation to Council today. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other people wish to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. Keith Mills from River. I'll keep my comments brief today. I think Council's probably gutful of what I had to say in the past, but it's serious. And I see that what I call the attack by this council on my well-being and my welfare and my livelihood is unwarranted. And it has also occurred without there being any appetite on behalf of council to enter into mediation. I also note that similar to my previous speech here indicated there were cases that went to court that were not seen in favour of the council. That indicates that council's out of touch with community attitudes. I make a plea now that council seriously consider that any case that they would envisage sending to court be sent to mediation first. And I also make my request for mediation be also met. So I'll keep it brief and leave it at that, but I would like the opportunity to speak with who is available. Most notably, I'd say the CEO, if possible, after this meeting or at another time that's convenient, to make some arrangement or at least discuss the possibility.
Thank you. There'd be no further, or there is a further?
John McLindon, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where to start. There's so many things running through my mind that just doesn't seem, things just don't seem to be as they should be around the place. Now, Councillor Colleen explained to me why things seem to have changed in local government over the last few years. And I think that explains the problems we're having. If the council used to do most of the work in shires and the secretary or CEO was doing what he was told to do. But now it seems the other way, that the councillors, in my opinion, are not having enough input, doing enough work. I just wonder what councillors do now. I'm not saying that you're not working or doing your best, but it just doesn't seem councillors are communicating with the local community, and so therefore the CEO and his officers are not getting any direction except just and I think that they just go with standard procedure, and that is why I guess the CEO has to do most of the things off his own bat, which is not going down very well with us. And I mean, I just don't know where we're going to go, but this council is not operating as it should be. I tell you, honestly. And this cannot go on like this for too much longer. I just lost my train of thought again then, but we need to go somewhere. We need to pull out everybody. Now, I'm just wondering, ladies and gentlemen, we'll talk to the councillors mainly and officers. Where have your hearts and minds been the last couple of days? I'll tell you for one thing, from my point of view, I don't forget thinking about the Adani Dam. Okay, not our business so much, but people, I just think that you've got to take the whole world, you've got to be aware of what's going on in the world, as well as, but more so locally, I guess. And how many people, I'll just test every councillor here for a question mark. How many people saw that program the other night about the missing boy, William Tyrrell? And I thought, to see that mother so upset, don't know what to do. So did any of you folk ask anyone or think, what could we do? I did. I rang my minister and I rang the paper, suggesting people pray for the whereabouts of William Tyrrell. Now this is only, I'm not sky, but I do think that we've got to look at the big picture, as well as look a lot closer at the picture we've got here in front of us. So you councillors, please. At any rate, that's got that point across. What was disappointing to me...
I think, John...
okay, all right, lady. I'm sorry, I won't be very long. It was disappointing that they saw me as a criminal, the officers, over the clearing of native vegetation, which I was doing a good job cleaning up your mess at Gulf Paradise Beach. If it hadn't been my plot of ground, you would have found me $1,500. So, and you won't even pay for half the fence.
Mr McLendon, you're going into areas that are dangerous, and I think you've had your 3 minutes. You've expressed a range of opinions, and they are only your opinion. So thank you for your opinion, but I think you can take your seat now. Thank you. And if I refer you to...
Not only my opinion, I'm sorry.
You can refer to the second paragraph that's up there at the moment. If you have any concerns, you can put them in, directly concerns, you can put them in writing, and it will be forward to the Ombudsman. Thank you.
Enough letters to
Thank
write,
you.
thank you.
There be no further comments from the gallery? We'll call the meeting closed then. Oh, we've got to go into closed session, sorry. Thank
Mayor,
you, Councillor
I move the meeting be closed to public pursuant to Section 89(2) of the Local Government Act 1989 to consider A, personnel matters.
Thank you. We do need to, seconded by Councillor Stevens, we do need to clear the gallery. Thank you. It's carried. Thank you.